And good morning, everybody.
Good morning and welcome to our second anniversary special. Of course, it's Black History Month, and that's when we started 2 years ago with our very first issue. Can you imagine that?
Pitch Black magazine.
Absolutely. And since then, we've brought you 8 what we would call cracking issues of the UK's Black Enterprise and Professional Experience magazine. And for our second anniversary special, we wanted to do something even more special. So we have got someone with us today who some people may well know him, very few people may not. Let me just read you a couple of things that he does, and then we will introduce you to him.
Did you say a couple of things?
Just a couple of
Just
things.
a couple of things.
He is the chairman of the School of Oriental and African Studies, London University, known as SOAS. He's the chairman of the London Chamber of Commerce Black Business Association. He is the non-executive director of Saxton Bamford, and he's also the non-executive director of Cornerstone Venture Capitalists firm. He's the director of the National Institute of Teaching, and he's the president of UK Community Foundations. That's just here in the UK. If that wasn't enough, internationally, he is the governor of M-Pesa Academy in Kenya, and he's also the non-executive director of the Adrian Group in Kenya, and a professor of leadership at Huntsman Business School, Utah State University in
USA.
the USA.
Bit busy.
Lord Hastings. Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
Pitch Black Unboxing Show.
Oh, that's
wow.
wonderful.
Wow. We had to write that down.
My
We had
first-
to-
My first question is, how on earth do you do all that? Now, for many of us mere mortals,
Yes.
any one of those things is a full-time activity, but somehow you manage to balance all of them. How do you do it?
Well, I suppose the honest truth is twofold.
Okay.
That when you get to my old age, so I'm heading towards 70,
Okay.
and I'm no longer in any full-time paid work.
Okay.
So when you get to this kind of position, you're given lots of opportunities that you can express your interests by patronages, chairmanships,
Okay.
engagements, some voluntary, some paid,
Okay.
and none of them takes a full-time life, with the exception of being a member of the House of Lords, which technically
Of course.
is a full-time
Yes.
commitment. But of course, the House of Lords doesn't sit 7 days a week.
Right.
We sit 4 days a week,
Yeah.
sometimes 5. We don't sit during the recess periods. And as a non-political member, I don't have to attend political sessions if I don't wish to.
Okay.
So there's a balancing that takes place of being essentially a retired
Yeah.
older gentleman.
Yeah.
So I can take up lots of responsibilities.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and this is a really important principle I learnt in my teenage years, which is if every moment of the day matters as a credit, as an opportunity for God's mercy to be exercised, for opportunity to be fulfilled, then I better get up early enough,
Brilliant.
like
Brilliant.
the 5 o'clock boundary.
Yeah.
So most people don't hit value activity until 8.
Yeah.
So if I'm up at 5, I've got 3 hours ahead of them.
Yeah.
And then you add that up across 6 days a week. I've got an extra day. So I've got 8 days in the week. And that means
I love
fluid
that.
flexibility allows you to do an awful lot more.
Yes.
I think they call that a productivity hack.
You got
Yeah.
it.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Productivity
up
gain.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm being serious about that because it means there's a lot of things first thing in the morning, besides my personal commitment to my faith and to spending time understanding and reading scripture. I read the newspapers. So I read the Times, I read the Financial Times, I read the BBC website, I read the Sky News website, the Guardian website, and I follow a lot of stuff on LinkedIn so that I've really got a good sense of what's happening in the world, with whom and why by the time I'm moving out to encounter anybody.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really, really insightful. But I get the funny feeling that's not all. There is more that you do. So that's just on your email header, for example.
Yes.
There are some other interests that you have.
Yeah.
Do you care to share about that?
Well, probably the biggest interest I have is in supporting the many men that God has given me the privilege to serve. And a lot of them are in prison. So there's a cohort in prison and a substantial group outside of prison. And track back to 1988.
Yeah.
And the then Home Secretary, who was Douglas Hurd, rang me and asked if I would help to create a crime prevention agency called Crime Concern, way back then.
Yeah.
And got set up 1988. I was the chairman of it. We got a £250,000 Home Office grant. Off we set. 21 years later, I was still the chairman of it. Okay. We were a £25 million organisation, 500 staff working all across the UK, really doing effective community intervention that was crime prevention work and helping to set up victim support and neighbourhood watch and a whole variety of other popular entities. And then we decided to merge Crime Concern with the Rayner Foundation. We created Catch 22.
Of course, yes.
And everyone will now know about Catch 22, which is a very substantial, and I remain vice president of that. So 2009, we basically doubled up the effort that we'd had over the course of the 88 to now time. And that led me into a really vivid awareness of the pressures that particularly face young men. I mean, some young women too, but by proportion, there's roughly 4,000 women in the prison estate and 84,000 men. So that tells you who's the bad ones. You're fine. Well, the trouble was mainly on the male side, I have to say. And there's a lot of work to be done on that. And so I got engaged way back in intervention with incarcerated people. And to this day, including even last night, a man rang me from prison. We talked about the realities of his shortly to come release. And I'm thrilled to see the transformation of people the world despises and dislikes, and they become friends.
Oh, wow.
And what was really encouraging, Judy and I were at an event where you spoke recently, and you invited a young man to come up. In fact, it's
Kenny
Methedon, and he was launching his book.
That's right.
That Peckham Boy.
Peckham Boy,
And he came up, and I remember him saying, "Thanks, Dad."
Yes.
And it threw me for a minute because I was like, I didn't know that Kenny was your son.
Yes.
But you have many sons who you continue to pour into.
Yes. Maybe like Father Abraham. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Had many sons.
Had many sons.
Many sons.
That's brilliant. So that's what you currently do.
Yeah.
Take us back to the very beginning. How did it all start?
The creation or my life?
Of your life. We don't have enough time to talk about creation.
Okay.
We'll
talk only 7 days and we can deal with that.
We'll talk about your, depending.
I know. Let's not go there.
How did life start for Lord Michael John Hastings?
It started in an extremely uninspiring, ordinary little town called Widnes now in Cheshire, I think it is, but I think it was back then in Lancashire. The boundary got moved. That's where my dear father and mother had chosen to move to. So my older brother, Daniel, was born in Humberside. And then they moved across England to the west side, and we located Widnes. My father was a dental surgeon, so he had a practice. I think it was 103 Albert Road, Widnes. And then we lived in a little private housing estate. I think we rented the house. I have no idea back then. But it was only at the age of 8 when my father said he wanted to go, as it were, quotes, back to Jamaica. He wasn't born in Jamaica. He was born in Angola. Of missionary parents, who then sent him and his brother and sister from Angola to school in England, then to university in Edinburgh to do medical practice, which all three of them did. One a GP, one a surgeon, my father a dental surgeon. And then they all went to practice in Jamaica. And then my father decided, 1966, that we would move from England back to Jamaica. So my life began in England, went to Jamaica, lived through the chaos that then emerged 1970, came back to England 1972 to boarding school, only ever went back to Jamaica for parental holidays. My father died in 1976 in a car accident in Jamaica, and then my mother died in 2010. So I don't have any root reasons to be back on the island other than the beach.
Which is never a bad reason.
Never a bad reason, and would be delightful. But a really serious commitment to engaging with people who are doing that kind of economic social transformation work, whether it's in a Caribbean country or it's in a Southern African country, Sub-Saharan African country. Those are my sweet spots.
Okay, good. And your CV does belie that.
Yes.
Because of course you do a lot in Kenya.
Yes.
And you do obviously a lot here.
Yes.
I would like to think at some point you will do a lot in Jamaica. We'll see what we can do. Just so that we can get you back to the beach.
Well, the Black Business Association of the London Chamber of Commerce is for Black businesses of a Caribbean or African origin.
Right.
So we have a lot of Caribbean-initiated UK businesses that are members. We're now around about 1,300 members, and when you go back to 2020 when we started, we were 0.
Yeah.
So we've done pretty well to get profitable,
Absolutely.
established Caribbean African businesses in the UK working together to build a more effective presence for Black business to be credible, investable, and then scalable.
Yeah. Okay. So what were some of the formative experiences that really catalyzed what you're doing now? Because you are doing, I shouldn't say this, a hell of a lot.
Why didn't you say a heaven of a lot?
A heaven of a lot. I'm with the
lot.
Lord, sorry. Got to behave myself. What were some of the early experiences that catalyzed that? And it's a leading question because when we met recently, we had lunch and you said something to me which I think is quite profound.
Yeah.
And you talked about seeing poverty at a very early age. I think it was to do with when you were in Jamaica.
Yep.
And there was something that you said which I'd love for you to share with us.
Well, so at the age of, I left Jamaica at 14 to go to boarding school in England, Scarisbrick Hall. Love it, still a great school. Very proud to be associated with it. Wonderful years there, both for my brother and myself. But what I'd seen when Jamaica had a, best to describe it as complicated and inappropriate election, 1970, which had led to a political settlement that was unacceptable to the United States, let alone to the UK. And therefore there was industrial closure, very significant loss of employment, collapse in the currency, and poverty became endemic.
Yeah.
And I witnessed that with my own eyes. And I also witnessed a lot of street violence, without going into detailed description, but serious street violence, because people were desperate.
Yeah.
And in that desperation, and that was one of the reasons why our parents decided to send my brother and I out and back to the UK. They just wanted us away from it. However, the impressions of what you see and what you hear and what you know don't leave you. And they didn't leave me. And when I came to Scarisbrick Hall School, and a very dear friend said to me, what do you want to do with your life, however long your life is? And it just came right out of my mouth. I want to speak up for the poor. I want to bend the power of the prosperous to the potential of the poor.
I love that.
And I said that at 16,
Yeah.
and I haven't changed it from 16 to 66. And it's what sustains me in my drivers every single day. The things I want to do, the things I want to support, the time I want to give are associated with people who are struggling with their status, needs, existence, pressure. I've been privileged. I've been facilitated an awful lot. I don't have those struggles, but I can empower others to have freedom. And that's why, to me, the work that I do, especially with people who are in prison, because they're locked out of recognition. They're just a number. Somebody else locks the door. They have no secured freedom. So I can use my platform, my presence, and my privilege to support them towards release. And that really is a way of moving the potential they have through the prosperous position I have to enable them to have freedom and dignity and acceptance.
Brilliant.
That's
Please
awesome.
say that again. Bend
The power of the prosperous to the potential of the poor.
That's your life in a nutshell, isn't it?
It is. It really
Love
is. It really is. And there's no despising those who are materially exceptionally prosperous.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
But what's a bad thing is this self-indulgent,
Yeah.
self-contained, I got it, you haven't mindset.
Yeah.
If I have it, I want to share it. I always say to the wonderful young men and women who are around me, because I know an awful lot of the wives and girlfriends as well, I always say to them that the only reason we're ever given anything is that we could give it away. And we have to realize that. Don't contain. Jesus made it so clear that if you want life, you have to give it away. If you try to hold on to life, you're going to lose it. Now, that principle means that I've got to look at everything through that lens. What have I got to give away?
Yeah. That's that brilliant paradox, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Life comes from losing it.
Yeah.
The passion is so clear.
Yeah.
Your calling, your purpose. You know, I was going to ask you about, did you have a particular role model that has brought you to this? But it sounds like you've had experiences as well as role models. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, everyone will say their mother was their role model. And in some ways she was my role model. There were many others, but say just take my dear mother. And I'll just tell you one story because it was just two stories actually, now that you've asked. It was so powerful for me as a very young child. I think I must have been probably 10. And I remember going into my parents' bedroom and my mother was getting dressed. And in those days, let's just be honest about it, the brassiere she was putting on was metal rimmed because that's the way they used to be. They're not like that now, so I'm told. Anyway, well,
newsflash.
You might want to update us. But
Well, you know,
so now,
underwired, it was metal.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember seeing literally the wire poking out and going into her rib cage, and I could see she was in pain. She's trying to put it back in. And I said, Mum, why don't you just go and why don't you buy a new one and get rid of that one? And she looked at me and she said, no, Michael, your father and I have committed to save everything for your education. So no, I will put up with it. I won't have another one.
Wow.
And I learned that basic, that simple, her right to have a valuable piece of underwear would be denied so that we could have a better quality of education. And obviously when you think about the figure, you think, oh, that's pathetic. It would only be a couple of dollars. But every dollar mattered. And I learned how important it was to count the pennies because they represent the prospect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I remember, again, my dear father was fixing people's teeth as a dental surgeon. So I spent a lot of time around Mum, and actually she taught me how to cook and everything else was great. But I remember when a lot of people left Jamaica because of the political economic situation, and many of our family left, and they went off, I mean, a wider family, and they went off to live in Canada mainly.
Okay.
And I remember a big box arriving at the post office, and it was for us, and we went to collect it, and it was a huge big flat box, and we opened it up, and it contained onions, apples, and soap, which is a very weird combination. How are you going to mix those three? I mean, it doesn't really but they were three commodities you couldn't get at the time in Jamaica: onions, apples, and soap. Bars of soap. There was no such thing those days as squeezy soap. It didn't exist, but it's soap bars. And I watched my mother taking one onion, one apple, one soap, boom, one apple, boom, boom. And she basically bagged up all three items, probably loads of them all over the place on the table. And she would say, that one is for the man up the road, that one is for the lady around the corner, that one is for the woman across, that one is for the lady who comes and does this, that one is... And I said to her, but that means there's only one left for us. One onion, one apple, one soap. And she said, but Michael, we don't need any more than that.
Wow.
So other people need, and we only need that. So we give away what we don't need.
Yeah.
And those principles have been embedded into me.
Yeah. And it actually makes sense now.
Yes.
Sacrificing your time and in some cases sacrificing your powerful position to serve others seems to be the epitome of who you are and what you do.
Well, you see, I wouldn't say sacrificing my position. I would say I've only been given the position so that others can stand up. So if they've got to stand on me to get to see, that's what I'm there for.
Yeah.
I'm there so they can have opportunity.
Probably sacrifice is the wrong word. Leveraging.
Yeah.
An equity platform.
Absolutely.
That sounds sophisticated. Where'd you get that from? That sounds like a sociology degree.
Teaching in psychology.
I detected it.
Of course, one of your first jobs, I believe, was as a teacher.
It was indeed, yes.
Please tell us about that. How did that happen? And what was that like?
Sorry. How did that happen?
How did that happen?
You went to school. I'm sorry.
Well, it happened. Actually, it's a good question because it did happen by accident.
Okay.
In the sense that I was appointed head of religious studies while I was not even a qualified teacher
Okay.
at a school in West London because of the deep desire of both the head and the deputy head to find someone to take over this every student responsibility. Every pupil had to do religious studies. That was the requirement of the curriculum at the time. And they wanted somebody who really believed that if you're going to talk about biblical and spiritual and religious truth, you better talk about from conviction rather than just the dictionary.
Yeah.
And there were a series of people interviewed. I was the third of 5.
Okay.
And put it this way, the head told me, we want you, before they even interviewed the other 2. So I realized that it was like a stitch up. And I was, the other people were just there for dressing.
Yeah.
But I did have, I had another job at the time.
Okay.
Well, I was offered another role at the time, which was with the BBC. And I really wanted to take the role with the BBC. It was a trainee producer role. And it was quite unique. They only ever rolled out a couple of these every year. And the fact that I got through the system and was offered it in writing, of course, everything was by letters in those days.
Of course.
I was so keen on that. And it came on the very day
Yeah.
of the interview at the school. And so I decided to reject the school.
Okay.
And it's a complicated story, but basically, put it this way, God lent on me very heavily.
Yeah.
And I had to abandon the BBC position
Okay.
with a sense of promise that it would return to me in due course. And it did 12 years later.
Brilliant.
So I step into everything not with, I must take this and grab it and move, but rather if it's the time, Lord, that you've appointed for this moment, then that's good enough.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
So were you teaching for that 12 years?
No, I wasn't. I was teaching for nearly 6. And then I got caught up positively in being, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right words to say, but by Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government at the time, was very troubled by the 1981-1985 riots. 22 UK cities has experienced major turbulences. We're all familiar with the famous Brixton riots, the famous Tottenham, Deptford, Peckham, etc., Handsworth in Birmingham, Moss Side in Toxteth. It was a string of, and that came as a result of savage unemployment, which particularly affected the black minority communities, because they had been mainly workers in industrial landscapes, and those are the ones that were facing closure and restraint. And the riots were just, as Martin Luther King always said, riots are the language of the unheard. And so people were basically saying, you're not hearing us, so we're burning things. And I remember 1986 coming, and the government was in a panic that this is all going to happen again. And the insurance industry was saying, we can't sustain the level of recovery that is needed, because you're basically watching major parts of our cities burn down, and the turbulence and the disturbance and the fear that embeds. So I got asked by the Thatcher government to intervene. And that intervention came in the form of finding community leaders in each part where the riots had taken place, who would be conduits to a positive approach to employment creation.
Brilliant.
Which is, I'm trying to put it tightly, because it was a complicated process, but I then spent a number of years doing that, literally traveling around the UK, facilitating civil servants of the government to meet community leadership by area, and then to provide the resources to put in the employment that was needed. And it survives to this day.
Hey, okay.
Much needed.
It definitely is much needed. And then tell us a little bit about your business experience, because you're obviously a great politician in the House of Lords. I would say you are. You're an obviously great educator, professor of business, Huntsman Business School, started life as a teacher. But I suspect many people don't know about your business life because you know they don't just assign anybody as a non-executive director these days, I'm told. You have to have some business experience and bring something to the table. So tell us a bit about your business experience and what led you to become the chairman of the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry's Black Business Association.
So, like I said, I wait for things to come. I don't pursue them, and if they come, they come. So, you know, I was offered. I only accepted the third offer to go into the House of Lords. I rejected 2 before, and a lot of people said to me, "You're mad. You reject. It'll never come again. Grab it." I said, "No, it's not right," because it was politically aligned, and so was the second one politically. I said, "I'm not going to take a politically aligned position," and then it came back in a non-politically aligned, so independent, crossbench, and that's where I'm very content. So the principle is, wait for what is right and best for you. Don't rush to grab what someone else puts before you. And so how
so many golden nuggets.
I know.
Try and get a platinum one in a minute.
Platinum one was get up early. Young people.
Oh, get up early.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so to my surprise, put it this way. In the line of surprises, when KPMG came to me and asked me to effectively join the global business of what was then a 130,000 person, $28 billion firm worldwide. Now nearly, well, it is now of about 32 billion, somewhere in the region of 200,000 people worldwide.
They're doing all right.
Doing all right. It's not always been easy, but doing all right. When the global chairman of KPMG came to me and asked me to join the firm, I was stepping into an audit, tax, and business consulting enterprise of global significance, having never worked in business before. But I had 13 phenomenal years. And they were remarkable years. Absolutely, until I had to retire. You get to a certain point at 60 where you have to retire, so I had to retire. But I absolutely treasured every one of those 13 years. And KPMG gave me the platform to not only go out there and, as it were, do good in the name of a macro business with substantial revenues, but I also got to work on business accounts. And that meant that I was getting into the inner core of what causes a business to either grow or to decline, to thrive and to uplift, to understand its accounting procedures, to look at business strategy. I became a representative of the business to other businesses. And because I was afforded the privilege of going to the World Economic Forum in Davos every year in the -15 cold snow, where you just learn to love the mountains but hate the walk. That I then got to meet world leaders of every conceivable kind, from every conceivable type of business, political, economic, social, and I developed a sense of the things that cause a business to tick well. It was almost like having a living MBA, which was the best way for me to acquire the skills which I can now apply to the Black Business Association, that I can now apply on the non-executive board of a number of businesses, that help me to understand it's not just about the accounts, but it's about what works well to enable a business to function, thrive, develop, be inclusive, but at the same time be impactful and significant. Because I suppose the issue especially if you're thinking about Black businesses, is scale. And I would say that one of the things we need to learn more is how to integrate complementary best practice organizations, merge and create scale. But the fight that is on, I can see the way you're breathing because you know what it's like. The fight that is on.
We're walking this walk.
Yeah, exactly. You say to any charitable organization or any small business organization, why don't you buddy up with that one, that one, and that one? And you watch the panic emerge because everybody is territorial.
Absolutely.
But when I was chairing Crime Concern, 25 million, my dear friend Elizabeth Filkin was chairing the Rayner Foundation, 25 million. And the two of us said together, let's merge them.
Makes sense.
Which means we will lose our positions. But the important thing was to create the impact that would deliver more results. So creating Catch 22 was a way of saying it's not us that matters, it's the customer that matters. And the business that I'm now part of in Kenya isn't just in Kenya, it's in 9 other countries in Africa. And I can say we own a German and EU business.
I know, I heard about that.
Yes, Joss Hansen. We own a manufacturing industrial business in Germany. And obviously we have ambitions here in the UK. And so as I'm going to support the business in its growth, a lot of that will come by contacts, relationships, connections, and understanding what is necessary to secure good practice within the business. So I thank KPMG for those 13 years. They gave me what I imagine I would have had to pay a lot of money in a business school to get.
I know.
But it has helped enormously.
Okay. Here's one of the things I wanted to ask. It's slightly linked to what you were saying before about collaboration.
Yes.
And the fact that many of us as small business owners, we think in a very parochial, tunnel-visioned way. But to be fair, organizations like the Black Business Association are helping to change that, because
we're trying to help to change that.
At a recent mixer that I came to, which you spoke at the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry's offices, there were a whole host of Black businesses in the room. And I think that the context and the theme of that was really about collaborating so that we could scale. So if I could tease that out a little bit, what is your vision for the average, if there's such a thing, Black business in the UK? What would you say to us, apart from collaborate and scale? Please just tease that out a little bit more.
Well, here we are.
And I hope that's not an unfair question.
No, because it's a perfect moment. Here we are having this conversation the day after India has put a probe on the other side of the moon, which not even the Russians or the Americans managed to do. And it tells you that the technical competence and expertise of India as a country is now at a world level. And well done, India. And Prime Minister Modi in Johannesburg at the BRICS summit shouting loudly about India's presence in the space race. Now, everybody knows, without being unduly inappropriate, how has Indian business achieved its impactful scale in Western markets, especially here in the UK, let alone in the United States. And it has been by families adopting the opportunity to sacrifice facilities, housing, opportunity, pleasure, positioning, so that resources can be galvanized together, investment created, businesses commenced, then merged, housing provided, and scaled. The model is so simple. It's called don't do your thing. Let's do our thing. And that's our thing. We should be doing. We should want people of Caribbean and African heritage to say to one another, in whatever business area you are, who else is around the circuit. I never forget watching CNN, the American news channel, did a phenomenally positive documentary on Lagos. And I've been to Lagos many times. And the one thing you know about Lagos, besides the fact that it's a macro city, it is chaos. So it's not really called Lagos, it's called Chaos Leg. And that is it's a place where you struggle to get around because of its transport infrastructure is minimal and hardly effective. But there we are, macro city, full of energy, so much color, so much life, so much passion, so much eagerness. And they did this amazing look at one of the big commercial squares in Lagos. And almost every single shop was the same. They were all electronics, telephone fixing, product sales shops, all of them. Boom, 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 boom. They're all competing for the customer. But you see, if it was just called Curry's, you'd put it together. And then you'd have a macro enterprise that you can scale to everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, the point CNN was making was this is a sign of the phenomenal energy contained in the city. But you want that energy and that resource turned into investment.
To be galvanized.
To galvanize together. So I'm proud to be a non-exec director of Cornerstone Venture Capital Group.
Okay.
Cornerstone Venture Capital Group has brought together funds from external sources. At the moment, it's around about 22 million, with the largest VC black venture capital fund in Europe.
Okay.
We're able to invest in businesses which have got scale-up potential.
Brilliant.
Somewhere in the region of about 250,000 to 400,000 investment in each case to enable diverse businesses. So that has many different elements to explain, but let's count it as diverse businesses to get under the way to be effective future businesses of significance. But that only came about because the Cornerstone Group was 16 black men, 4 black women who chose to put their money together to create the Cornerstone Group, which then allowed Cornerstone Venture Capital Fund to come into existence. So the credibility to Cornerstone was by the sacrifice of common resourcing. That's our challenge.
Yeah.
Co-investment as a community to empower the great brilliance that we already see. It's everywhere,
Yeah.
but we want to make it shine together.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So, number one, you're saying to us, collaborate, talk to each other,
Find each other.
see what the synergies are,
Yeah,
and see if there is something that we can do together.
yes. Rather than fight each other,
Yeah.
find each other.
I like it.
Let's all think, one of the critical 7 habits principles that I teach at the Huntsman Business School is Stephen Covey's win-win
Yes,
solution.
Absolutely.
You see, we tend to think win-lose. If I
Win-lose,
win,
yeah.
you lose.
A zero-sum game.
Yeah, you win, I lose.
Yeah.
No. We can both win. We can all win if we take a co-investment approach. That means I have to sacrifice something of me and my opportunity, my resources and my potential to put it in with you, your resources, your potential, your resources, your potential.
Yeah.
Then we have a scalable,
Yeah.
fundable, long-term proposition. That's what I long for. That equals jobs for people.
Yeah.
That equals futures for people. It means significant statements of business and industry, employment, inclusion, and transformation. We can do it.
We absolutely can. And I think what I love about that approach and that mindset is it's not so much what others are doing or need to do for us. It's about what we can do for ourselves.
Exactly.
So it gives us independence, it gives us agency, and it gives us that opportunity to really, really scale up.
We know the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
That is true.
Yeah.
A lot of people, for the common good of the child and their future prospect, it takes a village also to empower business and its
Absolutely.
potential to put together
Yeah.
the best bits that will enable strength and success.
Yeah.
At a time when money is tight, there's plenty money in the African Caribbean community because we know where it gets spent.
Absolutely.
There's plenty money. The weddings,
Yeah.
the holidays,
Yep.
the festivals, the exchanges,
Yep.
the clothing, the style. We know there's plenty money.
Yeah.
Put it together.
Yeah.
Enable common investment. That's what Cornerstone VC is all about. That's what we mentally should be all about because there is a long-term gain here.
Absolutely. And I hope I haven't misremembered, but I think we contribute something like 25 billion to the UK economy every single year. That's a lot of money.
But it's dispersed.
If we were to reinvest it
That's the point.
within our community,
Yes.
that would create so much. And in fact, that would be the investment needed and the catalyst needed for scale.
Yes. And your job is to get the 25 billion, put it into Cornerstone VC, and we're off.
Absolutely. I'll see what I can do.
I'm sitting and I'm listening and I'm gaining so much, and it sounds to me that your life converges around business, politics, education,
People.
Yeah.
the people of all
People.
people.
Because I could spend a ton of time sitting on boards, looking at documents, helping businesses to be confident
Yeah.
and credible and creditable.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather spend time helping people in disorder or distress step up into their potential.
Yeah.
Because it's no point. I don't need any more. But many others need windows of opportunity and support. So if I can get behind anyone who is, and I particularly am passionate about the incarcerated in prison, the disproportion of black men in prison. Our population is 4%, black population in the UK, but our prison population is 14%. That disproportion, 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched, 6 times more likely to have a longer sentence than somebody from another culture or community who commits the same offense. So there is discrimination embedded, and we have to do a lot of work to give people the sense of confidence that their lives matter.
Okay. Indeed. And that leads really nicely into, here we are celebrating Black History Month. What would be your message to the UK's black community, bearing in mind all that you've just said about, it taking a village to raise a child and to build a business and for us to collaborate? What would be your overarching message to us for Black History Month?
Well, this is gonna really irritate. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But I've many times on many platforms said I hate Black History Month.
Okay.
And because we ought to be talking about Black futures.
Absolutely.
And not Black Futures Month, but Black Futures decades. We've had too long looking back and regretting. Of course, there are regrettable stories over hundreds of years. We don't need to recount them now. Everybody can just look at Twitter and it's full of them, or X or whatever it's called, and LinkedIn or whatever social media there are. And you could see endless agonizing distress about the longitudinal negative story of the mistreatment of people of color in the Western Northern world, whether it's European, UK, or North America. That's a fact. But what are we going to do for the future? Because there are generations that don't need that burden on their back. And they need instead to be able to stand as equally tall alongside people of any culture and any cultural background and make their way in the world without carrying the baggage of what didn't happen before or even the resentments it breeds. So I want us to be focused on the potential of our possibilities. What's the future for us? 100 years ago, an American cartoonist, 100 years ago, did a cartoon that showed big China, big India, big Africa, little US, little England, little France. That was 100 years ago.
100 years ago.
We've seen big China and big India emerge. Now we need to see
for big Africa.
Big Africa. Big Africa and big African people. And that's not about, you see, with big China, big India, it's not about India doing down China and China doing down India. It's not about us wanting to do down the US or Britain wanting to do down France. That doesn't work for anybody. It is about saying, why don't we all rise up?
Absolutely.
Not in protest and anger, but rather embrace the education we need, put in the investment we need, do the collaboration we need, build things together, serve and sacrifice together, bring freedom to those who are entrapped, set people on a road of acceptance and futures, embed dignity into our world, and therefore make the potential of what we have embedded in our DNA come to the fore. So much energy and color and enterprise and difference and significance. It's wonderful. But it needs to be seen.
I hear that. And I do take what you said about Black History Month and the
bemoaning.
To use the word frustration, would that be too strong?
Frustration and hand-wringing and agonizing.
And unfortunately, that does happen. But fortunately, within that, there is also a bit of looking back and celebrating some of our pioneers and some of our... And certainly that's something at Pitch Black that we love to do.
We try to focus on the celebrations. Looking forward.
The Dyke and Drydens of this world. Before we were talking about social entrepreneurs, they were social entrepreneurs, you know, making money, investing it back into their community, investing into distribution systems where they were empowering people. But I do hear and share your frustration that we need to be galvanizing and looking back in order to look forward rather than looking back to bemoan. And there's stuff we already know. We don't need to rehash it.
Well, there's wars that we could have over and over and over and over again. But we need to step into the future.
Absolutely. Lord Hastings, it's been such an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. We are hearing some serious nuggets. How to get 24 hours out of your week, an additional day out of every week. Really
Platinum
great stuff.
nuggets.
However, and we weren't sure we should do this, of course, but we would like to ask you the quick fire dozen.
Plantain.
Or plantain.
Both.
Okay.
And then we've got, I think I know the answer to this one. Beach holiday.
Or city break.
Intelligent opportunity to learn and think in a course.
So neither.
Exactly.
Okay. I like that.
Right. Cash flow or
capital appreciation.
Capital appreciation. Definitely.
Good.
Oh, I like this one. Netflix or YouTube?
The BBC. I wasn't head of public affairs for 12 years not to defend the BBC.
Absolutely.
Defend the BBC.
All right, you go for that one.
Reggae or Afrobeats?
Oh, Afrobeats. A much better style. I mean, it's a bit more flippity dynamic, actually. Reggae is okay, but there's only one back thing you can do with reggae.
Dark chocolate?
Or milk chocolate?
Dark chocolate.
Okay.
Oh, I brought the wrong
Very
one.
definitive there.
And, stocks and shares.
Or crypto?
No, crypto. Fool does crypto? I mean, have you not read? I mean, come on, get a grip.
This one,
the thing you miss, it should be stocks and shares or crypto or giving. Giving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it.
Night in?
Or night out?
I haven't been knighted either.
Yet.
I got you on that one.
That's it.
Right, okay.
So,
Definitely no. Night in. After all the decades of being in business, in politics, in so many organizations, I am weary of the dinner circuit.
Okay.
And I have to do it because I have to do it because I have to do it. But I like to go home.
We were thinking about nightclubs rather than dinner.
No.
With some Afrobeats.
I know.
In the car.
When you come up to Norwich, we'll sort you out.
Oh, really? Okay. I can see the nightlife in Norwich.
Right to him. Lord
Please.
Hastings.
We were trying to defend Norwich here.
Right. Okay.
Pepsi.
Or Coca-Cola.
Well, they were both great audit clients of KPMG, so I would defend them both. And Indru Nui, who was the CEO of Pepsi, is a dear friend. So let me just say, great product, both, but I know the Pepsi people more.
Okay.
You got that wrong.
I did. I actually said it was Diet Coke.
Well, we tend to say Diet Coke, don't we, just for ease.
Yeah.
But if you think about the company.
Yeah. And if you know the CEO or the former CEO, that's a good reason to like the product. Okay.
All right, Colin's favourite.
This is the pièce de résistance.
Oh, there we go.
This is the mother of all quickfire questions.
Uh-oh.
Wars have been fought over this.
Uh-oh.
Oh, dear.
Oxtail.
Or chicken foot. I knew it was going to be that.
Not quite chicken foot, but
Curry goats.
oxtail.
Chicken foot if you want.
No, thank you.
But hey, we can do chicken foot.
Curry goat.
Curry goat.
Curry goat.
Okay.
Yeah. I know oxtail is a stronger taste and a deeper flavor, but curry goat is, you can get oxtail easily here, but you can't get curry goat easily here.
Okay.
You can in Norwich.
You can in
Norwich. Well, I can't wait for the invitation.
Brilliant.
Christian or follower of Jesus?
Follower of Jesus, because that's what he asked his disciples to do. Come, follow me. He
Love
never
it.
said, become a thing.
Yeah.
We're not a noun.
Mm.
We're behind a living person, Jesus.
Absolutely love it.
Hallelujah.
Hey. It's an absolute pleasure spending time with you. We thank you so much for being here on our second anniversary special. Please be assured of one thing. We will be celebrating you, cheering you on, and dare I say, challenging you to do even more than you're already doing, if that's even possible. So thank you so much
Always possible.
for spending time with us. Thank you very much. We salute you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you.